The winter has come. The heavy snows have fallen across the valley. The mountain passes are blocked. The roads are buried. You stand on the battlements, looking out into the white fog, but nothing moves. No riders approach the gate. No merchants travel the road. No heralds bring news from the neighboring lords. You walk down from the wall and enter the great hall. It is entirely empty. The long wooden tables, once filled with the laughter of your kin, the songs of the victory, the loud arguments of the council, are bare. The stone walls do not echo with the clatter of armor or the pouring of wine. There is only the sound of the wind and the sound of your own breathing. You are completely, undeniably alone. In the clinical world, this agonizing state is known as social isolation. In the language of the Keep, it is the siege of silence. It is the most brutal and insidious test of the warrior's mind, because there is no enemy to strike. There is no wall to defend. There is only a vast, crushing void. We must examine why the human mind shatters in the quiet. Psychology tells us that loneliness is not a failure of character. It is a biological alarm system. Just as physical hunger tells the body it needs bread to survive, loneliness is a deep, evolutionary hunger. It tells the primitive brain that you have been separated from the tribe. And in the ancient dark, to be separated from the tribe meant certain death by the wolves. When the hall goes quiet, the tremor awakens in the chest. It is a panic response, a biological terror of abandonment. But there is a second, deeper layer to this terror. It is the panic of the ego. The human ego is a mirror. It understands who you are by looking at the reflections provided by other people. When the king praises your sword, the ego says, "I am a great warrior." When the village relies on your protection, the ego says, "I am a savior." When your kin laugh at your stories, the ego says, "I am loved." Your identity is stitched together by the reactions of the realm. But what happens when the realm vanishes? What happens when there is no one left to look at you? No one to praise you? No one to need you? No one to fight you? Without the external mirrors, the ego begins to starve. It loses its shape. It begins to dissolve. You pace the empty stone floors, and you ask yourself a terrifying question. If no one is here to witness my life, do I even exist? This is the true horror of the siege of silence. It strips away all your titles, all your external armor, and forces you to confront the raw, unpolished core of who you actually are. And for most, that core is terrifying to behold. Because when the external noise of the world stops, the internal noise becomes deafening. Psychologists call this the default mode network. It is the part of the brain that activates when you are no longer focused on an outside task. We call them the whispering guards. When you sit alone by the cold hearth, the guards of your mind begin to speak. Without the distraction of the battlefield to occupy them, they begin to dredge up the past. They remind you of the friends who betrayed you. They remind you of the times you failed. They list every regret, every flaw, every fear you have ever tried to bury beneath the mud. The silence is not peaceful. It is an interrogation. And so, to escape the interrogation, the modern mind seeks out the bells. In the world outside these walls, the lords of the realm have created an endless supply of cheap noise. The jesters, the chaotic bazaars, the constant, meaningless chatter of the crowds. When the silence becomes too heavy, we run to the noise. We invite any passing fool into our hall, just to fill the quiet. We tolerate toxic alliances. We engage in petty wars. We surrender our time to meaningless distractions, simply because a bad reflection in the mirror is better than no reflection at all. We become addicted to the fray. We become terrified of our own company. But running from the silence is a fatal tactical error. Because the winter will always return. The passes will always close eventually. Friends will move on. Alliances will break. Time will empty the hall. If you do not learn to survive the quiet, you will be a hostage to anyone who offers you a crumb of noise. You will lower your drawbridge to thieves simply because they promise to speak to you. To become truly fortified, you must learn the psychological alchemy of the keep. You must transform loneliness into solitude. Loneliness is a state of deficit. It is the painful feeling that something is missing. It is the belief that you have been abandoned. Solitude is a state of mastery. It is the realization that you are not missing anything. It is the profound, stoic acceptance that you are stationed exactly where you need to be. Loneliness happens to you. Solitude is a choice made by you. How do you forge this alchemy? You must stop pacing the hall, waiting for someone to arrive and save you. No one is coming. The snow is too deep. The night is too dark. You are the only one here. Accept this. Let the heavy iron door of reality slam shut. When you finally stop resisting the isolation, the panic begins to burn itself out. The tremor exhausts its fuel. And in the ashes of that panic, a new, harder strength is forged. You must become your own mirror. You must learn to validate your own existence without the applause of the gallery. When you sharpen your sword in the morning, you do not do it so the king will praise your discipline. You do it because a sharp sword honors the man who holds it. When you sweep the stone floors of your keep, you do not do it for the guests who are not there. You do it to bring order to your own mind. You build the internal citadel. You sit by the hearth and you listen to the whispering guards. You do not run from their interrogation. You face them. You sort through the regrets and the fears. You organize the archives of your own mind until the guards have nothing left to say. Until the silence is no longer an interrogation, but a sanctuary. The greatest philosophers, the greatest commanders, the greatest masters of the realm did not discover their wisdom in the crowded, shouting bazaars. They discovered it in the desert, in the frozen mountains, in the empty cell. They allowed the silence to strip away the weak, dependent parts of their ego until all that was left was unbreakable iron. Do not fear the empty hall. It is the only place where you can finally hear your own voice. Walk to the hearth. The wood is there. The flint is in your hand. Do not wait for another traveler to bring you warmth. Strike the stone, light your own fire, sit in the quiet. The march continues.